status of mental health care in our community. And I've been wanting to get Ange on here. She's very busy. She's got a full-time job. She's going to college. She's got kids and a husband to deal with. So it's hard to get her time. But maybe if I throw that out here in front of people, she'll feel more pressure to make the time sometime to talk about it, because I think it's a serious subject. And from what I've seen on the news, it sounds like it's not just a problem here. It sounds like it's getting to be a problem in a lot of other places in the country. The fact that there are not places for people to go with mental health crises going on.
Yeah, that's true. Well, there's a lot of issues, but mental health doesn't make money, so you're not going to see a lot of private companies that are getting into it, and like the hospitals now that are all closing. They can't afford to do all the upgrades that Medicaid and Medicare are forcing us to do. Like JACO, we're accredited, we get inspected. If we don't pass inspections, they close us down. So what's happening with a lot of hospitals is they can't afford to sink a couple $1 million into one unit that's going to house, maybe have 15 patients in it or something like that. So they can't afford to sink money into it, so they're just closing down. We don't have any inpatient units here in Stark County now.
Now, here's something I've seen, and I can't help but think it is purposeful, but I'm seeing numbers thrown out, okay, about how this hospital only had so many beds and weren't keeping people in them. And I swear, I think these hospitals are releasing these numbers, trying to make it seem like they weren't needed in the first place, when in reality, they purposefully did not want to fill those beds.
Well, we need the beds in the community. People need inpatient psychiatric treatment. The average stay for somebody with depression is about 3 days, but then somebody with something like schizophrenia or mania, if you have bipolar and you're in a manic episode, that's a lot of times 7 days, 6 or 7 day stay. So a crisis bed, we have a few crisis beds around, but that is the maximum of like 72 hours. So
Jeez.
So there's not a lot of room to help these people get stabilized. You can't just hand somebody an antipsychotic and then the next day they're fine and they go home. That's not something that happens. So what's happening now is they're going to Cleveland or actually Geneva, Columbus, Ohio.
Damn.
So I'm not sure how much help these people are getting, how many family meetings anybody can get in when their family members are an hour or two away. I don't know how they're going to get home from the hospital stay. So it's disheartening. With all the suicides that have been in Stark County recently. So we don't hear about a lot of them,
Your audio's cutting out a little bit. Maybe you're covering your microphone. I don't know.
I was. I was just saying, in the newspaper, a lot of times people just put that a person died suddenly, and
right.
So we don't know, we as people on the streets don't know how big the situation is. They will release statistics, but it'll take a couple of years for them to finalize that kind of stuff. It always.
Now here's here's my concern, and this is what I would throw out just the average Joe out there is that if they don't think this is going to affect them, they're wrong. And that it could possibly be they're dead wrong. Okay.
Right.
Because, you know, if not for the sake of just caring about your fellow brothers and sister human beings out there, okay, if not for that concern, all right, that stuff like people not having mental health available to them leads to more people going into places and shooting shit up,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Well, I mean, it leads to a lot of stuff. If you don't have resources, a lot of times what people need is just a place to go. They've had a lot of bad stuff happen at the same time, and it just compounds. And if you can get them through with, several days and help them find something to live for, you know, then you can get them through that, and they're great. But if you don't get them through that hump, a lot of times they'll do something drastic that they're going to regret. Yeah, and as far as people, there's just not enough mental health care, and there's not enough teaching of coping skills in the schools. Some of the schools now finally are starting to try and do that with
Well,
the kids, promoting telling each other good things about each other. They write it down and put them in little envelopes and that kind of thing. And I don't think any of that had been taught enough before. Kids aren't getting recesses, kids aren't getting art classes. They're just learning what they need to do to pass tests. And so it's starting young, you know. You got to start kids young so they know how to deal with stressors.
yeah. And I
And
can't, what's that?
well, just if people are, concerned with mental health, a lot of people I think believe it's bullshit, that it's not real, that mental health problems aren't real and they just need to knock it off. I think that's a lot of people.
Well, I think when somebody goes into the mall and starts shooting everybody, that kind of is a physical manifestation of somebody having some mental health problems.
Right, right.
Sean
And
says they start to do something when it's too late, and that's what Ange was just talking about. Because we're at a point now in America and it appears that, Stark County is definitely part of this list where suicide is damn near an epidemic.
oh, it is an epidemic here. It's been, yeah. The CDC has come in and actually and studied our area as well. So,
I mean, it's
they came out with a lot of recommendations. I think that's why the school systems around here are implementing like mental health into the school systems.
yeah, and people, and this scares me because I have kids. I got kids that deal with bullying and shit like that, and um, no matter how many programs they come out with, other kids, other people are going to be asses. Period. But um,
Right.
what worries me is that the suicides are taking place at younger ages than ever, too.
Right.
I
Right. I
mean,
think that little boy at the middle school last year was 11. I'm going to say was he 11 or
yes.
12. But yeah, it's sad. Well, and some of that maybe, they can get a hold of phones and look up terrible things, and if you're not aware of that as a parent, you know.
Yeah, all
I mean,
that
even
knowledge is out there.
yeah. Well, Liam last year, that rapper got shot, and I guess somebody was videotaping him dying and everything, and so I don't know his name, but anyway,
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
forget.
know this. I didn't know Liam saw it, And here he was very upset about it, and I'm like, you need to let me know when you witness something like that. Now that's
Yeah.
something as a kid, we would have never seen unless we were in a neighborhood that had a lot of crime and violence.
Right.
Now they just open up their phone and, see somebody getting shot and dying.
Yeah.
It's
I
available.
yeah, I can't help but think there's a correlation between the information bombardment we have, all of us have now on us, and mental health problems. I mean, you can't get away from shit. It's like you need to forcefully go on a diet from the internet or something for
Yep.
mental health. I wonder that sometimes.
Yeah. I've been for years, I've wondered if there's a correlation with like autism and the pressures that we're putting on the kids and all the digital things, and um, if that has something to do with it. Back in the day, your kid was 5 and he'd be helping around the house and sweeping and stuff, and he started school at 6, and that was only half a day, and he maybe learned ABCs and colors and stuff the first year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, heck, you got to have your kid in preschool at 4 years old, 3 or 4, to be able to compete by the time they get to kindergarten, because they're supposed to know their ABCs and all that before they even get there. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure.
And it's weird because with all this communication going on, this communication, I say that with the quotation marks because we're talking, I don't know, for lack of a better term, cyber communication going on. Um, the actual people, person to person skills have gone down the drain, to where
Oh, yeah.
people can communicate face to face. These kids now, and I'm generally speaking, have no idea how to talk to one
Yeah.
another. So it's like, what the hell does that do to them, mentally? What does that do to you when the only way you feel comfortable is texting something? It's
Right.
like, do you go see a psychiatrist and you both sit in the same room and you text one another?
Yeah. You're not forming all those connections in your brain, and those neurons aren't firing, that the same neurons that you have in a regular conversation, and building those skills. That's just not happening. Yeah, when I drive Liam to school, I drive past several kids waiting for buses, and normally they're not even looking at each other. They're just looking at their phones.
Yeah.
And I mean, the one kid at the end of the street, they were on separate sides of the street. Now they're getting on the same bus, and they're getting at the same stop, but they're on separate sides of the street on their phone texting and looking things up. And then the bus arrived, and the girl crossed the street to the boy, and where the boy was, and they got on the bus.
Yeah. What the
And,
hell?
and I'm like, what is going on? I said, do you know if, is that other kid mean? Is that why she's not
Yeah.
standing by him? And Liam's like, oh no, they're just on their phones.
In their
I'm
own
like,
worlds.
in their own worlds, yep. Instead of, doing whatever. Of course, at the bus stop, we probably just smacked each other and ran around in circles, but
Yeah, or dare, or I remember back in the days daring people when it was snowing to throw snowballs at cars and shit like that. But yeah, you had to communicate, or else just stand there, kind of staring at your feet. At the bus stop, you had to talk to people who maybe you didn't hang out with them during school or whatever, but if you didn't want to be bored as hell, you at least talked. You know.
right, right.
And they don't have to now. They don't have to talk with one another. And I think that, yeah, I think that's bad, bad thing.
Yeah, because when you get out in the workforce, you're gonna have to deal with people that you wouldn't normally talk to and don't like,
Yeah.
but you gotta deal with them. So yeah.
Now, I'm not going to mention any names, okay? But I'll say I was talking to my doctor. I'm not going to say his name.
Mhm.
Um, and talking to him about mental health and about the situation. He was telling me about how many beds used to be in the local hospitals for mental health care. And one of the hospitals had over 100 beds. The other one had like 50 beds, and used to have them packed. Okay, they used to actually take people in, whereas then they ended up turning around and going through a mentality where they wanted to get these people out as fast as possible. Okay.
Right.
And my doctor's very professional, quiet, older man. And when we started talking about it, um, let's just say he got so worked up over it. He said, "It's bullshit. It's bullshit." And
Yep.
to hear my doctor say that shocked me. It surprised me, but and you might say, well, that's unprofessional or whatever, but to me, just hearing him say that, just kind of like hammered it in further that, you know, yeah, for lack of more eloquent saying, it's bullshit. I mean,
Yep.
he said,
Well,
how can
he's
you help somebody with 1 day of treatment? You know,
right. Right. Well, and the fact of the matter is most antidepressants don't even start working for at least 2 weeks, and
oh
really
yeah,
you don't get full effect for a month or 6 weeks or
right,
you know. So, and the bad thing with antidepressants too is, once they start working a little bit, then people have more energy, which sounds good, but if you were thinking about committing suicide now, you're having a little more energy and you just might do it. Which is why they all have black box warnings, you know. So certain doctors would keep you in the hospital for a couple weeks to
right.
monitor you, which is very understandable, I think. But then again, insurance companies won't, you have to justify to the insurance company why you're keeping that person there,
Yeah,
or they won't pay. So,
yeah. Sean says, remember that story I told you about the guy who tried to check himself into a mental hospital but was turned down because they said he wasn't a danger, and right after he went on a killing spree. I do remember that, Sean. And what's sad about that is I remember Sean sharing that story, but what's sad is that is not an isolated case. You'll see a lot of the times when these things happen, when somebody goes out and starts slaying people, uh,
mm,
a lot of the times you end up reading about how they kept checking themselves in somewhere or trying to and kept just getting turned out. Um, and
yeah,
uh, it's awful.
yeah. Whereas, yeah, like in the years ago, they might have been on the unit for a couple weeks. So we got their medicine adjusted and they were, feeling better and had a system in place where they knew, if this happens, then I call this person. If I start feeling worse, I call this person.
Yeah.
You make sure all the guns are, taken away. There's just certain things, but it's a mess. It's a mess. So, and it easily takes a month or two to get people into a new doctor, at least. So, some docs don't even accept new patients. So,
Yeah. And another thing my doctor talked about was, it was funny, not funny, ha ha ho ho, but it was funny that, he was pissed off, okay, when he yelled out bullshit.
Yeah,
Um, he was pissed
I can
about that.
visualize it.
What's that?
I said I can visualize it.
Yeah, he was pissed off, and then he um then he had this change come over him that was basically like it's futile. He was like, what can you do? He's like,
Right.
how can it be fixed? Because I said, he knows I do a podcast and stuff, and I said, I've really been wanting to, talk about it. And he said, but what can it do? And I'm like, I don't know, just put it in people's heads more, make people talk about it more, make it more conscious. That's all I'm hoping for.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we get, we've got a few more people elected now that are have backgrounds in medical and nursing and that kind of stuff. We need more people in mental health to try and run for office. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I've heard a couple people bring it up, and I'm hoping that they will, because we just really need people in office that or to go and keep sending things to the senators and the congressmen and everything about how important this is, because yeah, unless it directly affects their families,
Yeah.
unless their constituents are out here bitching about it, you know,
Right.
it's it's not their focus.
Yeah. And the thing is, though, I mean, if people think this will not affect them, it's very possible it will. Um, because I read, and I don't know, I can't recall the numbers exactly, but I've read that damn near that nowadays, supposedly, almost 50% of people at some point in time in their lives will end up taking some sort of antidepressant in their life.
Oh yeah.
Now,
Oh
does
yeah, I
that
can
does
believe.
that sound realistic?
Yeah. Yeah. At some time in people's lives, most people's lives, they're going to have mental health issues.
No.
That's just the way it is. I mean, it's just like having a physical health issue. At some time in your life, you're going to have a physical health issue. You're not going to live to 99 and then fall over dead. It's the same with mental health. You know, things are going to happen in your life. It's just a lot of people things happen when they're younger that kind of set the ball rolling. It's the nature or the nurture and nature thing. You
Yeah.
might already be predisposed to it, but nothing bad happens to you for the first 40 years of your life, which I can't imagine, but you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Right.
Or you could be exposed to something very early on, and it just sets everything in motion.
Yeah.
You have mental health issues for your entire life. So, yeah, people, you can't say there's no way it doesn't affect people, even if you don't know it. The person sitting next to you or at the cubicle across from you could be going through some terrible stuff, and maybe they cover it up or maybe they don't.
Yeah. And you're saying that there is still very much, um, which I'll get right back to that. Sean said about that guy, he took the lives of over 12 people, which is horrible. Um, but you're saying that there still very much is a stigma about mental health being bullshit. There's still a lot of
Oh,
people who think grow up, don't act like
uh,
that.
yeah. Unfortunately, I've seen it from you know lay people, but medical professionals that I work have worked with. Oh
Really?
yeah. Oh yes.
You
The
mean
stigma is there. It's everywhere.
you mean
And
like,
so then that
wow.
leads people to not want to go seek help. Why would you want to go to your primary care doctor if you didn't think that they believed mental health was an actual diagnosis, if they thought you were making things up? Or why would you go to the emergency room when you knew the doctors there or the nurses there just basically, yeah, told you to grow up. Go,
That's that's
just get
that's
over
true.
it.
So
So, and if you think about it, I mean, I'm not a teacher. I don't work with teachers every day, but I'm sure there are teachers in school that think that way. There are people at every job that think that way. You know, I'd say, well, just get your crap together and get over it. Stop hanging around with those bad people. Well, those bad people are my mom and my daughter and my cousin. You know what I
yeah,
mean? They're who I live with. I can't just stop hanging around these bad people.
yeah.
That's those are my support people. Where I'm gonna, do I live on the street? So yeah, unfortunately, the stigma's there, and
Well, and that's not even, and that's not even considering the fact that okay, you could have an excellent childhood, be in an excellent family where everybody's supporting and this and that, and everything's gone smooth for you. And then you get 18, 19 years old, and all of a sudden your world falls apart because genetically you are predisposed to having shit wrong with you,
right,
and then just all of a sudden you are freaking out. Everything's terrifying you. You don't know what this thing life is anymore. You don't know up from down all of a sudden, and you're like, well, I'm fucking crazy. You know, I'm crazy. What the hell just happened? And because it doesn't even have to be some traumatic situation to bring it
right,
about. I mean, it's what would you say, physiological or
yeah. Well, yeah. Then and that's uh, 18 to early 20s is a lot of times when people have issues with mental health. That's when schizophrenia usually comes about. So you've got a kid that was, quote, normal, yeah,
yeah,
and raised in a upper middle class house or whatever, or lower income. Actually, schizophrenia hits everybody equally. They don't care how much money you make. But
well, that's
so
good
if
and
you have,
politically correct.
yeah, it comes at families, and but the people with lower income usually have less supports, and so it's usually a poorer outcome. Um, if you have a family that is a good support system and has money to take you to the doctor and to kind of keep you in line, and some families, support this person their entire life. They have money to get them their own apartment. They bring their medicine over. They make sure they take them every day. You know,
Yeah,
so in that case, a person might be able to function and get a job and everything else, but with less social support, it tends to, yeah, fall apart pretty quickly, and then homelessness and not eating. And so it used to be, we had the state hospital, and I'm sure bad stuff did happen there, but also a lot of good stuff happened there too. So if you couldn't function on your own, you could live in the cottages, and then you helped in the field, and had the farm animals, and you grew vegetables and that kind of stuff, and they kept an eye on you and made sure you were taking your medicines. But we don't have anything like that at all anymore. So
wow.
there are group homes, but group homes are just a voluntary thing, and they don't make you take medicine. So the bad thing about like schizophrenia is once you think you're feeling better,
Uh-huh.
you're like, oh, well, why would I take this medicine? I'm fine.
Uh,
And And that's where you need somebody to say, whoa, you're feeling good because you're taking your medicine.
Yeah.
You need that support. Without that support, there's a good chance that you're going to stop taking it. Just like I do with my allergy medicine. Oh, I'm feeling fine. Why do I need that allergy medicine?
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, I can't breathe through my nose. So, I mean, that's mild compared to,
Right.
you know, what somebody with a major mental illness is going through. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, we need more government support. We have the Stark County Board of Mental Health, and they have some pretty cool programs. They have task forces. They have mental health first aid. You can sign up for, take classes, just to help people wherever. If you're out at the grocery store and you see somebody, crying, and how to approach that person and talk to them and that kind of thing.
Which
So,
which sounds like valuable skills for people to have now more than ever.
yeah,
People are losing touch with how to talk to their fellow man, and that's why, I mean, I just think if, it might sound kind of hippie, pippy or whatever, but, if there was a little more love in the air, a little more concern for people's, your brothers and sisters out there, shit would be a lot better, but we're ending up in this age where we're uh, isolating ourselves from one another. And the damn phones, man, phones are a big part of it.
yeah, yep. Man, I catch myself sometimes. I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? The kids are here doing, try to get them to do their homework, and I'm looking around at crap on the internet, and I'm like, stop it,
Yeah.
put it down, you
Yeah.
know.
I have to make myself, because I do a lot of things online. I do the wasted lunch, and then I end up uploading it onto YouTube, and it's very easy for me to get caught up in it. And lately, I've been having to treat myself as if I were a child in a way, and discipline myself and say, "Go get your fat ass on that treadmill, Paul." Um,
Yep.
you know, Turn that phone off. Leave your ringer up because I have kids, so I gotta have my phone ready in case something happens. But leave the ringer up, put the damn phone down, don't search stuff, you know, pick up your book, the thing made out of paper, and actually read it. It's and I've heard about in I think Japan and China them having a like internet cessation camps or something for kids.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's been going on for a few years now, where the kids go and there is no internet, and they get in touch with nature, with the real world.
Yeah,
And,
that's
because
good.
it's needed. So, what would you say, Ange, if somebody were watching right now and thought, man, I got some shit wrong with me. I don't know how to handle this or whatever. What would you tell them to do?
Well, I would tell them to, well, you can get on uh, the Ohio Department of Mental Health if you want to find a therapist, a counselor, provider, like community mental health centers where they don't charge you. You can get free counseling and that kind of stuff. Um, if you have insurance, you can call the number on the back of your card and ask them about providers in your area. There's the crisis center is closed now, but we still have Coleman and Phoenix Rising and local places. There's Arrow Passage for substance abuse. Um, I would talk to somebody close to you, if you have people you can talk to, you know, if you think that you're thinking bad thoughts, though, you're gonna have to get to the emergency room.
Okay, that is still an option to go
Oh
straight
yeah.
to a damn hospital.
Oh yeah. I mean, if it's an immediate issue, if you're just thinking I'd like to, get some help, then, just call and try to get into a counselor before you get to that point. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right.
A lot of times we reach the point where everything is like in Falling Down, that movie, and
Yeah,
it's just you're in crisis mode now, and now you can't get anything done because you're so depressed or so, overwhelmed. So catch it early.
yeah,
You know, I have a friend that she said, you know what, I'm going to start counseling. Her grandmother has dementia. And she said, I know she probably, we probably don't have much longer with her. And I know that that's just going to just drag me down. It's going to,
right.
she's
Except
like,
it,
I'm going to get into counseling now
yeah,
to help me deal with it. And I'm like, oh my God, that's wonderful.
yeah, being
That's
proactive.
being proactive is wonderful. Um, what you're doing with the exercising is amazing for mental health and physical health, obviously.
Yeah,
But it increases the blood flow to your brain. It helps you release stress. Um, it's actually one of the first things you should be doing if you're depressed. You might, that's a non-pharmacologic thing you can do. Exercise, meditation.
yeah. Ange, did you just stumbled upon a book? Did you give it to me? A book about mindfulness?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you for giving me that book. I don't know how. I thought I remembered you telling me about it. You must have brought it over with some other stuff. It must have been hidden and then it reappeared not that long
Yeah.
ago. And so I started checking it out because I remember you saying something about it, and I'm just like, I like nodded and stuff, but I never actually saw it. So I'm like, okay, maybe she just thinks she gave me it, and I'm just gonna be nice and go along with it. But then I found Teresa found the book, and so I started checking it out because let me get a light.
Jesus. Is that the
There we go.
toaster?
Yes, it's toaster.
All right, Dad.
Um, but I've always had an open mind, especially about mental health stuff, because it's like, but the main thing, I'm not, and I should have asked you this right before, right when we first started talking about, because I said, well, I consider my a sister and here a mental health professional. You want to just say what your job is and what you've done with mental health?
Oh,
Career,
I'm a nurse. What?
career wise. Yeah.
Oh, registered nurse. Um, and most of my years have been psychiatric mental health nursing. And I'm in school right now for my master's, for my psych nurse practitioner. So it's always been something that I've been interested in. When I was in nursing school, I had my rotation at Heartland and loved it and volunteered there then until I graduated. And I don't know, it's always interested me. Um, I don't mind being around people that are different than me. So, I felt I could help a lot of people. So,
Did you ever think, Ange, that with the work you've done, that did you ever think, just how many possibly bad situations could have happened had these people not been under your care and and the hospital you work for, did you ever think, how many things were probably avoided because of that?
Oh, oh, it's yeah, it's definite. We've had yeah, I mean, you get letters and cards and stuff like that, which is the best. Once in a while, somebody will stop by, and say, hey, I'm doing fine. Or you'll see somebody out and about, which obviously I never bring anything up to them, but sometimes people would come up to you and say, you know, hey, I'm doing good. And I'm like, that's awesome, that's
Yeah,
great.
that's
So, I mean, it's definite that that inpatient wise, you definitely help people. I'm sure it's outpatient wise as well. Because usually when somebody comes into the hospital, they're at their lowest point, and if you can just get them through that, just get them through that and get them started to take some healthier action,
yeah,
and say I've been drinking beer to deal with all my issues for years, and now something really bad happens, and now I'm drinking all the time. That's my coping skill. I'm
yeah,
gonna go for it. That's what I know. So you gotta get something else you can do instead of the drinking. But by this time, you've probably burned all your bridges. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So you can't just call your cousin. You know,
Who now thinks you're nothing but a drunk.
right? You're right. You've burnt your bridges, and now all your friends are the guys that drink with you all the time. So you can't. You can call them, but they're gonna take you out to the bar, and you're gonna drink again. So
Yeah,
yeah, I mean it's about trying to help people turn their lives around and find a sense of purpose. So, yep. Which
so
speaking of which, I gotta run off to work now.
all right. Well, Ange, thanks so much for your time because yeah, I've been wanting to talk about these things and I'd love sometime in the future, talk about, some of the other um problems that that we're experiencing, especially here in Ohio, and now are just now starting to be, you know, um, love sometime to talk about the heroin situation sometime in the
Oh
future.
yeah, yeah.
But thanks for your time so much, and I love you, of course.
Okay, love you too, man.
All
Talk to
right,
you later.
all right, have a great day at work, Ange.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye. All right. Wow. I'm so glad that happened. I'm so glad that happened. Talk about wow. Now it's 2:33. I did not expect my sister to get on here. I've been wanting that to happen for a long time. It's been something, that idea of having my sister on here about the mental health situation, especially here in Ohio, and I think it's becoming a problem nationwide, actually, from what I'm seeing on the big news, on the national news. It's not just Ohio that's having a problem right now with this, and people not having a lot of access to mental health help. So I'm very excited that that just happened, and it's not something I talk about a whole lot. Sean says that was Angie's second appearance. Yeah, it was, and a very important one. And I'm just going to go on. I'm going to say, right now that, because Ange was talking about the stigma of mental health care. It's not voodoo. It's not witch doctor shit. It is real. People really do have problems. Maybe even whoever's watching right now has problems, knows something's wrong with them, but they don't know what. For crying out loud, do something about it. Don't be afraid to. Get out, get yourself some help. If you know somebody you love and care about and they need help, try and get them help. Try and persuade them or talk them into getting some help too, because it is real. Our brains, what lead us throughout our lives, we got to take care of that stuff. So, And I think just as people in general, I think there needs to be more caring in general, caring about other people, even people you don't know. I mean, for God's sake, I think it's very important that everybody keeps an open mind and remembers that everybody you bump into at that store, or you're behind in a car or whatever, that they're human beings just like you. They got feelings, they got thoughts, they got worries, they got frustrations. Um, just be aware. Let's see. Becky Barnes says, I'm going to watch this from beginning to end when I get home. You guys are great and so smart. Hopefully I can share. Well, thank you, Becky. And I'm going to warn you, dear, that the first half of this video really has nothing to do with mental health care. We're talking about birds and some silly stuff. And then in about the second half, Ange ended up hopping on here. So, you might want to watch the whole show because we're talking about some silly stuff then. But then I was surprised my sister finally got on here, and that's what I've been wanting to talk about so much because it's so important. Thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it. But you might want to skip through, or you might want to hear the goofy stuff we're talking about earlier, because I even talk about how a man approached me wanting to see my big feet. So we're talking about some silly stuff before I finally got my sister onto the show. But I'm glad you liked it, and I would love to do more material like that. I try to have fun, but I want to talk about the stuff that really matters and impacts people more, and because I do. I love people. I love my I call society, my brothers and sisters out there. It's very important to me. I've been at some low points in my life, and I know that you don't make it through life without being hurt somehow. It can be rough, and I really think now more than ever, people should not be stigmatized. They should not worry about how they're going to look by confessing that they got a problem. They don't want to be that person who's taking medicine. Well, you know what? The fact of the matter is that you're not going to be in the minority. It's true. There are so many people who take medication or will end up taking medication. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to do some studying. I'm going to get some better numbers on that so I can talk more factually about it, about how many people end up taking medication at some point in time, just to try and break down that stigma, because I don't want people to think that they're doing something wrong by admitting they have some kind of a mental health problem, because the more people need to admit it, I think more people, and there are celebrities that have admitted having mental health problems. Politicians, I don't think they like to admit that they've had mental health problems, of course, because they want to appear like they got all their stuff together. But anyways, at this point, I think it's, let's see, 2:38 Oven Standard, and it's time to wrap it up. And I'm so glad that the show ended up taking the turn it did. It took a very good turn. Not that the first half of the show was fun, though, too. But Sean says, have a good day, Paul. Have fun at the banquet. I'm going to be praying that your food tastes good. Well, thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. I hope my food tastes good, too. But yeah, I'm going to hop off of here. I'm going to wish everybody a fantastic day again. Okay, I was going to get off earlier, and I didn't. And I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I stuck it out. But yeah, I'm hoping everybody has a fantastic day, and anybody who has taken the time to watch this video, thank you for watching. God bless you. And I'll be doing this again tomorrow. Let's see, tomorrow will be Friday. Last day of the business week. Be doing Wasted Lunch again at noonish. So, whatever you're doing, take care of yourselves, and I will see you later. Bye.